Morning. Just going to tell you about as much as I can remember about week commencing the 27th of May 2019. Again, Mac still not well really all this week, so that's why things are a little sketchy. Tried to make some notes every day, but just kind of one day's pretty much rolling into another. So Monday, Mac had a lot more of the gunk that's coming out of his side, just draining out of him. He slept probably till 10 a.m. Some signs of recovery, kind of eating a little bit more. Sherry's been really busy at Ashgrove because obviously she's been kind of like covering the bases for us and just making sure that there's somebody to look after Brody on half term. So she's been doing all the things like walking the dogs, but also taking the time to really give the house a deep clean, the kind of clean that we've not had the time to do since we've been here, which is going to make life a lot easier when we come to move. You've got two ways, I think, when you move a house. You can either pretty much leave it as it is, or you can try and make the place as clean and tidy as it is and give some consideration to the next person. Seem to remember when we left Church Street all that time ago, and we did everything we could to make the house really clean and tidy. So I can remember us pulling out the fridge and freezer, and obviously even behind it, it's not the kind of thing you just remove to clean up all the time. And I remember when we took that out, I can remember mopping it. It was a complete mess behind the fridge and freezer. And Sherry's really taken the time to properly go through, takes such a pride, she's got such a pride in her work. I think that's what it is. I mean, she's not really a fan of cleaning per se. It's not something she enjoys doing, but whatever she does, she always does to the beyond the best of her ability. So she wants to be the best road captain on a Harley. She'd want to be just really the best at everything, and that shows through in everything she does, whether it be gardening or at her own house or just basically anything. She always wants to be the best and do the best job possible. So we're very, very, very lucky to have that kind of support. So in terms of the house, our own sale, we're hoping that the exchange will go some point this week. Whether it does or whether it doesn't remains to be seen. So Tuesday, went into Alder Hey again, and Max seemed a little better on that. On Tuesday, he'd had about another 3 litres of, it's not really too much gunk then, it started clearing up. It was a mixture of colours, so like a browny blood colour, and the rest of it is like a fluid that, I'm trying to think, looks a bit like gravy, not gravy, the juices that you get when you're basting, that kind of fluid that you get from basting the turkey at Christmas, that kind of thing, that kind of transparent, really very light brown colour. Obviously horrid stuff, but better out than in, because the more stuff that's in him, it just means that if he's still got all that liquid surrounding his lung can't inflate, he can't get his oxygen levels up, and that all has an impact on his speed of recovery. So his nan and granddad came, or my mum and dad or his nan and granddad came over to visit him on the Tuesday along with Brody. So that gave Wendy and I a chance to have a little bit of a walk around and just basically to chill out. Tuesday was also the first day for Mac in terms of not having a temperature, which is good, which is also a sign of when he's how much the temperature is caused by the infection. That's pretty much it. And even though he's on paracetamol through IV every 6 hours. In between that, he was at late and his temperature was spiking, so going up kind of 38s and 39s. And there's not really a massive amount you can do. Even when you're in the hospital, then they'll literally put something as low tech as a cold compress on, which just seems a bit crazy. They do give him, I mean, he's pumped with all kinds of drugs at the minute just to try and make him better. They swapped over his mattress as well, because he's been in bed so long now. They swapped it to an inflatable mattress which should mould around him a little better and take some of the pressure off his back and his legs and what have you, and stop getting bed sores, because apparently they can be very, very painful. It's where you get a red, your skin, I think, almost like blisters and starts to weep, and then it scaps over. So yeah, we really got to try and avoid that at all cost. So the Wednesday when we went in, this is the 29th, Mac had a very, very bad night's sleep. The inflatable mattress, which seemed pretty comfortable when he first got on, he just couldn't get comfortable with it at night. It just probably had next to no sleep. I think he'd say he'd had about 2 or 3 hours sleep and off the whole night. And yeah, he just looked terrible. He really did look terrible. We taking everything into account in terms of where we're at this week, where we're at next week and the following week, and the amount of people who are in the body in the company. Bearing in mind, obviously, the company is still operating pretty much as per normal without us being there, which is good. We've got a new starter that's coming at the start, that was starting like the next Monday, called Lucy, and then there's a further new starter the week after called Ellie, and she, like, all the preparations for her in terms of the desk layout, because there's currently not enough network points as we are at the minute to be able to get all these people in. And it was just a bit of a, oh god, you know, what are we going to do to be able to get her in for that time? And the only logical thing to do, because we're going to have to make the new smaller desks, because they take up less room, and they just allow us to not so much cram more people in. It feels like a bit of a battery hen farm at the minute with the layout. So I dropped her an email. I've asked her to start the week after, which is week commencing the 17th, and that should give us enough time, gives us 2 weeks to start building and constructing the desks. So I had to spend quite a bit of time placing the order for all the parts that come to the desk. So basically the desk is going to be made of wood that's bespoke, and it's going to be made of metal scaffold, tubing or handrail, and then that's got corner pieces. They've got such a variety of pieces and like joining parts. It took quite a while, but anyway, I'd done the detail on that. Sherry was also busy, still every day looking after Brody, taking him out, and still continuing on with doing the deep clean of the house. She'd also spent some considerable time cleaning Mac's room, but also then putting his room is like a typical teenager's room, with things potentially strewn all over the floor. So the trick for Sherry was to clean up the area around his desk, but then put all the rubbish back and around the floor, and put it all back the way it was, but just obviously the floor underneath it had been cleaned. So yeah, going to, as I said, just doing the best job you can, just going to incredible levels to make everything just right. So on Thursday, spent quite a bit of time, probably about half the morning when I went into Alder Hey, looking at monitor options. We'd had some that were suggested to me, different price ranges ranging from about £160 including VAT, all the way up to over 500 quid, including looking at one where you just have a gigantic 43-inch monitor sat on your desk, and then you can actually get up to four. You can get almost like the equivalent of 4 screens onto the one, which all sounds a little bit nutty. I think they were about £750, something along those lines. Anyhow, I decided to plump for, there was a couple of Dell monitors that are pretty much a brand new one, but look really quite look cool, but they seem to have a bit of what we call light bleed. Now, whether they're any better than the current ones we've got, that kind of remains to be seen. So Darren's gonna run his colour testing equipment that he puts on the monitors. It's like a device that hangs over, touches the screen, and then it measures. It's a calibration tool. And it then means you can go through the settings on the there's a piece of software in the machine that allows you to adjust the outputs that the PC is making. I think that's basically how it works. So we'll see how they go. Then it's just a question of also working out who gets what machine. The machines, the way that they work, tend to be I'll buy generally a new machine and then trickle down other machines, use it as a point to give them a completely new user and delete all the stuff off, because slowly but surely they tend to get clogged with temporary files amongst everything else. And I'm also going through the process where we're renaming the naming protocols on the machine is being changed, where they're getting an actual a name for the PC rather than a name for the person, and then that way, if you need to hand the PC round to another person, you're just giving them the PC. It's not actually got somebody's name on it, so you're logging it on with the name, which in principle seems to be better. So started looking at options for that, and the actual physical layout of the office, taking into account where we have network points, and where there are network points on one part of the office which have long lead lines that are pulling around to the other half of the office, meaning that the people, where there's only 4 points and you need a printer as well, as in there's a fifth point for the network point for the printer as well, so it has to be looked at. Nan and Grandad came, as in like my mum and dad came down again to visit Mac, which was nice. Gave us Wendy and I some time to walked down to the park that's around Alder Hey. We were going to cut across an area until we realised it was actually where the helicopters land, so that we fortunately didn't end up cutting across that, so that was good. Wendy and I have also been taking this opportunity to, rather than eating at the Alder Hey cafe that's in there, which is really nice, very very nice cafe with loads of tempting feel good foods. So that means I'll be having things like curry with half and half, as in half rice and half chips. But I've moved across from them to eating pre-packaged side, which it's be a lot cheaper if you made it yourself, of course, but then you've also got things like portion control and just purely the convenience of just being able to go in there and just buy what you want. So I've had, for the first time in my life, an egg salad, which is cold potato and spring onions and boiled eggs. And boiled eggs is something that I've never really liked the look of before, which is a bit crazy because I love them as part of a cooked breakfast. I love them fried, love them scrambled, but like boiled eggs, there's just something, I don't know, about the smell of them. I think when I was tracking it back, it actually goes back to a time where I thought I was going to get a cheese mix, which is where you've got like grated cheese, different flavours of it, and then it's got mayo in it, and that's on a butty, and I just absolutely love them. But cheese mix can look very similar to an egg mayo, which is where you've got, I think egg mayo must be boiled egg mixed with mayonnaise. I'm guessing it is. I've never really looked at it before, but I remember just pulling a random sandwich out thinking it was cheese, and then when you bite it and then it's not cheese, it's something else, it was like, oh, the whole thought of it just like really turned my stomach. Very similar to when I had calamari for the first time. I thought it was an onion ring, and then obviously it isn't an onion ring. It has a completely different texture, probably more than anything else. And I like calamari now, but obviously I need to know that it's calamari and not mistake it for an onion ring, because the way that the product is completely different. So what we didn't get home till we've kind of like got into a routine as much as anything else. Been watching Britain's Got Talent with Mac, then coming home after that, speaking to Sherry on the way home for a bit of an update. So that seems to be working quite well. When we came back to that evening, it was greeted to some nice gifts that the guys at work had got for When Did I, so I had a couple of chocolate oranges, which are probably my favourite vice. So this idea of having salad didn't really work that well, because I'd created a calorie deficit in one end, and then as soon as the chocolate orange appeared, I was steaming into that. I found that the best way for me to limit my chocolate orange is to be a bit more generous and to share it out. So luckily Mick was here when we came back, or Sherry's partner that is, and he helped me with some of it, as did Broads. So, but even within the first night, literally half of the chocolate orange was gone. Wayne got some lovely flowers, which I'm just looking up at here, which was good. And he also got some chocolates. I think they were crunchy M&Ms for Mac, which we took in on the Friday. Friday was a big day. Mac had some more x-rays to see how things were, and the plan was, due to the amount of gunk that was coming out, they stopped putting in they'd stopped yesterday putting in the medicine that goes in his drain in the first place, because the amount of gunk that was coming out was equal to the amount of medicine that was going in. So that means that he's pretty much got to the level where he needs to be. So the idea would be for him to move him on and to take his drain out, which is I don't know if I've ever explained, but it's a tube, quite a thin tube that goes to like a wider diameter tube. It's got some taps on the side of his chest, goes through his chest wall, and then has got like a curl inside it with holes in it, and that's where all the gunk is draining out of. So he had that. We had the message that was going to get drained, and I was a little bit concerned over it, because as ever is the fear of the unknown. So he also went for a couple of laps around the ward in just the way it's set up, almost like a circuit. So he needs to keep out of bed as much as he can, and sit in the chair upright, which then helps all the gunk settle, helps him clear his chest. And the other thing to say is that the longer you're on the antibiotics, obviously they are having, and the more gunk you're getting rid of, they are then having more chance and more ability to be able to get rid of the infection that's causing the problem in the first place. Mac also on the Friday had a couple of his mates came to visit him. So that's Adam, and I think the other guy was called Ben, I think. And Ben and his family had an appointment in Alder Hey themselves. So this is the younger brother. So the older one had plenty of time to go up there and spend some time just chatting with Mac, which was nice for him to have a little bit of time to see his friends. So they took the drain out on Friday as well later on in the afternoon. I think probably the most painful bit of it seemed to be almost like peeling the plasters on that keep all the drain and everything in place. I think that's because it's then moving almost like an open wound, and it's pulling, you know, as they're moving like that, then it's pulling on the tube that's inside of him. He'd had some morphine before, but I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or anything like that. But he was still in a lot of discomfort while all the plasters were being removed, and also, so the actual drain coming out was probably the least painful bit. They were like breathe in and breathe out, and then hold your breath, and then it was almost like they pulled it out, you know, relatively quickly. And then I think they must have put some, I'm going to guess they put some iodine or something like that on it, just to make sure that the hole didn't get infected, and then put a bandage over that and left it. So that was good. Saturday, Wendy and I were supposed to do almost like a half and half changeover. So I need to go into work, change the positions of the desks, reconnect the network cable in from one, so that they're working on one point to another. But it ended up that Mac decided that, is that work? I'm trying to think now. But anyway, one way or another, I ended up staying and working at work all day, pretty much all day, moving around the offices and prepping stuff for it. The monitors, the Dell monitors had arrived, so I had to move those around, set up Lucy's PC in the place where it was. Had to find her monitor. You know, it's even just things like a lot of the monitors, they support 2 HDMI ports because I had some modifications done for them a few years ago, but the one that she's got only has one monitor on it. So to run dual screen, you've got the one original VGA, and then you have an HDMI. But then all the monitors that we have, they don't all have the ability to take a VGA connector, which is one of those connector plugs that you've got little screws on the back of them. So again, mine had those, and the quality of my monitors weren't that good. So I just thought, right, okay, well, I'll set mine up with the new monitors, and they look particularly fine. They look really great. You've got somebody on the internet who'd made, this is why you've got to be really careful about reading Amazon's reviews. So I'd read, I don't know, there's maybe 200 reviews, and I'd read an awful lot of them to try and see what people were moaning about, see what people liked. But one person was saying, well, the image doesn't go all the way to the edge of the screen, it stops about 7mm short with the black board around it. And I'm like thinking, do they mean that it stops short of the bezel by about 7mm? Or, I mean, that's the way that it reads, because the bezel is like the frame around the outside of the machine, and then you've got the actual physical screen itself. And it turns out when you turn it on, yeah, it does go to the edge of the working screen, but then it's just darker, and then the lip goes round. So yeah, it doesn't fill the whole screen. I don't know where people would even think that it would do that. Absolutely bonkers. Also, another one of these funny things, and I haven't worked it out, how when you have 2 monitors and you turn them on, it's like which one, when you have 2 screens and the one's a monitor 1 and one's a monitor 2, and it's like, how do the monitors know the monitor 1 and monitor 2? Because you kind of like plug one in first, I think, and when you turn it on, that's how it then decides that's then monitor 1, and then when you plug the other one, it's always monitor 2. You can't really well, you can swap them round, but you've got to physically swap them round if you want to do that. And what's the relevance of that, you may wonder? Well, if you're working on dual screen, one of them is almost like the home monitor, and that's where things on your desktop automatically live on that screen, and the other one is empty. And also the bottom corner, if you ever want to see what's on the desktop, you go down to the bottom right hand corner of your like main screen, and if you click the bottom area, that then reveals the desktop. So I had a bit of faffing around with that in terms of wiring that up so that the main screen is the one that sits in front of me, not the one that sits on the side. But yeah, that took me quite a while. Went into town to there was a couple of extension leads short. The extension leads that we've got at work I get from Quality Save, and they have some great ones where you've got a couple of USB connectors in, so you can actually charge things up without having to run them for power from like another converter socket. So for example, you could charge your phone or any other small format device. And I went through and routed to the back. It looked like they weren't selling them anymore, but when I routed to the very back of the range that was in there, I found there was a couple more left, so I got the last two of those, so that was pretty good. Went into bird whistles, I think it is. I always go past when I walk around and I look, and then the sausage rolls look like raw. They look like really nice. They're about £2 each, and I'd always fancied having one of those, and took the opportunity, had it, and it was nice. But I tell you, it was almost like when is almost like too much sausage rolls. So you bought the thing in like the middle of the sausage rolls, probably about that filled with meat, so like really like packed with meat, and it was almost like too meaty. So when I'd had 3/4 of it, I ended up just chucking the rest away. Also went into the new pound, I don't know what you call them, thrift store, pound store, whatever it is, in that's opened in Northwich. I think it's maybe called Poundland and Bargain or something along those lines. And they're run by some really nice Asian guys. The range of stuff that in there and the variety of stuff is crazy. You've got everything going from BB guns to food to paint to all kinds of DIY, and I think we might even have clothes in there as well, lighters, e-cigarettes, and there was even a fake BB gun. I mean, it's crazy the amount of the range of stuff in there. And you could call it Aladdin's cave or something like that. I suppose you could call it that. And also had a look at the list of the PCs that we had. So kind of in the morning, I'd had a look of, do I buy a new PC, a new laptop for me, and then trickle down mine to other people? And then I was looking at the quality of the machines that's on there. You can buy the like ex-professional CAD machines. So the processors on there have to be like really uprated. So though it's like an older machine, the processor on it and the setup on it is really high. So there's a little utility tool where you can compare CPUs. So you put in the name of the processor unit and it gives them all like a benchmark score. So for PCs that are about the same power rating as mine, but maybe an older PC that's then been refurbished, they were coming in at, excluding VAT, anywhere between to the £400 to £500 mark. And then when I found this other place that was selling these professional refurbed CAD machines, and I looked at the power of them, and they are, we paid somewhere in the region of about 1,800 quid, something like that, for the two that we bought for the guys who were doing the videos. Their processor score was about 18,000. The rank and file decent machines that we have somewhere sit at around 10, 11,000, something like that for the CPU score. And then these second-hand ones that have been refurbed are coming in at 19,300 for the CPU score, and you're paying somewhere in the region of about 500 quid ex VAT for them. So yeah, just crazy. Send them off to our IT specialist to have a look at. Spoke to him about them in terms of what he thought whether they were going to be worth the risk, because obviously when you're buying something second hand, although it does actually come with a year warranty, you don't get the 3-year warranty that you get when you're buying something new, which you may well need. Because if you look at Lee's machine, which should have been fixed on Friday, it wasn't. Basically, it hadn't been fixed. The engineer didn't come out. He's booked in for this week, and yeah, he gave it the thumbs up. So that was good. That was good to know. Saturday also got to see the prototype desk, and the tubes had been made up by the guys yesterday on the Friday. Tubes look quite chunky. It's all right if you design something in scale on PowerPoint. It's pretty good. You can have a pretty good idea of how things are going to be in terms of the final dimensions, but having that physical thing there that you can actually get a tape measure on and go, okay, well, a seat fits in like this, there's this much space there. It's going to be interesting to see how this gets put together. Aiden knows some guys who do joinery, so I think he's gonna ask for their advice in terms of the setup on them. So I'm still hoping that we can build and make the actual desks and brand them up in house. So that's something that we're pressing on with doing. Saturday was also a big day for me because it is the Champions League final. We'd invited Sherry and Mick and Mum and Dad down to see it, but I'm quite funny when it comes to finals. So the finals will start at 8 o'clock. I think I finished work at maybe 7 or something along those lines. And the first thing is, I may well predict who I think is going to win, but I don't do anything that's going to, what I would consider, jinx the process. I won't say, when was that going? So are we going to go to the victory parade? And I'm like, well, look, I'm not going to say anything until we've won it. That kind of thing. Whereas Gwen's like, oh no, I'm definitely going because we're definitely going to win. And I'm like, oh no, I just can't take any of these things for granted, because it is just a perception thing. So Wend would go, okay, well, we've won it 5 times before, we've got the experience, but those were other teams dating back to like the late 70s, early 80s, that kind of thing. Last time Liverpool won it, I think it was in 1995 in Istanbul. Completely different team, so different manager, so you can't use that as a benchmark. The only thing that I think gave Liverpool an advantage over Spurs is that they went to the Champions League final last year and they got beaten, so they know how it feels. They know, it's the current squad, or a lot of the current squad know the feeling of getting beat, and they know about how it feels on the occasion, and I think that's definitely helps them get through to it. So the other thing as well that happens when I'm watching the football, when everybody else comes down, like Mum's an Evertonian, for example. Mick isn't really interested in football. Sherry says she is, Wen says she is, but they're quite happy to go on social media and chat and talk and what have you. And I'm like, no, just like literally completely focus on the game while it's on, watch it, or literally keep your eyes glued to the set and don't interact. That's how I am. Don't interact with anything else but the game. So we were Liverpool. It's one of these ones. They got I think it was the quickest it may be the quickest penalty that's ever been given in the Champions League. So literally within the first minute, the first attack, Mane tries to put the ball across to two of the other Liverpool players, Salah and Firmino on the other side of the box, and one of the Tottenham players lifts his arm up to kind of like to point. I think he's like gesturing to one of his other defenders or something like that, and it hits him on his, hits him top of the chest and rolled down his arms. And interestingly enough, although they had VAR, the referee apparently didn't even go to VAR. He just awarded it supposedly. But it was a very tense game. Tottenham, I think, definitely had a heck of a lot more possession, but it almost like looked to me a lot of the time that Liverpool had the more meaningful chances when they did get through to them. So had they either forced to save, or say for example when Milner came on, he drilled the ball low and it just went like the wrong side of the post, but the goal, he wouldn't have got to it, that kind of thing. But so yeah, very, 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 very tense game. Alisson pulled off some great saves in the second half. Definitely big difference in the goalkeepers this year. Having Alisson in there, he's such a presence, such a calm head. So even under pressure, he still makes the great saves. He's been awesome. And I think it was something like the 89th minute, through in an attack, ball drops to Origi, and he literally slots it in the far corner. So I don't know what you call it, cult hero, whatever you want to call it. He's scored some incredible vital goals, 2 against Barcelona, got a late winner at Newcastle to keep them in the title race, got the winner in the derby as well. So I think he'll be remembered forever, without a doubt. May not be the greatest player who's ever pulled on a red shirt, but in terms of what he's done, in terms of scoring the right goals at the right time, he's going to go down as an all-time legend for the club. So for me, it wasn't about the winning 3 or 4-0, nice it would have been. I just wanted them to win. They've put in such a superhuman effort all this season, and they've tried really incredibly hard. And for them the thought of them losing and coming out at the end of the season with absolutely nothing just didn't seem right. And I'm really glad that they won it. I watched all the live streams, which is really great. Just went on the internet. I actually had 2 live streams playing at the time, which was the Klopp, which is the post-match press conference, and also catching the players as they were leaving the game. So that was great. Didn't get to bed then till probably about 1:15 or something along those lines. Wendy definitely had quite a lot to drink and celebrate. I was a bit more, how could I put it, reserved, didn't have as much. Sunday, back into Alder Hey again. Took Brody with us this time. Mac seemed a lot better. It made good progress on the Saturday with having the drains out. Was a lot more mobile, because obviously he can walk around a lot more. Still, he's, goodness knows how much weight he's lost. His legs have gone thinner. Basically, it's the whole lot. He's gone from looking really, he's just literally wasted away since he's been in hospital. He eats a lot at home, and they are comparatively small portions, which even when he first went in there, he wasn't really even eating all those. Now he picks and chooses. So the funny thing is, on the Sunday we brought around a Sunday roast dinner, and I was like, he's not going to eat that because it's got gravy on it, and sure enough it was like, oh, gravy is disgusting. I love gravy with chips, so he definitely doesn't get his taste buds from me, that's for sure. And they're such great people. They went and got him another Sunday lunch that had no gravy on, to which he ate, and they said the other one was going to waste. They offered it to Brody, he said no. Wen said yes, so she had that. I had another salad. also on the Sunday was good because we'd had a lot of help. A friend of ours managed to lend us a wheelchair ironically after we just sold one through eBay the other day. We ended up having to borrow one, and we borrowed one so that we could take Mac to see the European Cup and the coming home parade. So we kept an eye when we went to Alder Hey and Queen's Drive, which is the main kind of road into Liverpool. They're not that far, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes walk, something along those lines from actual Alder Hey itself. And when it got to about, I think the parade was supposed to start at 4 o'clock. When it got to 3, we could see people were already starting to walk down with the flags. So we took Mac down and Brodie as well. And we went to, I think it's called Five Ways. It's quite a really big junction with a pub on it. And there was crowds already there when we got there just after 3 o'clock. The bus didn't come through till, I don't know, it was probably just after 10 past 5, something along those lines. The road was like a sea of people with cars still trying to get through the other way. Pretty crazy. There was a big Arctic that went through, and for him to get through, there was a guy on a police bike trying to get through to make people move back, and his bike managed to get trapped. I think the front wheel of his bike got rolled over by the guy who's cutting across on the Arctic, because when they turn a corner they can't really see what they're doing, but he managed to get free. I did my first and second Facebook Live videos there. Wasn't quite sure what I was doing on that, but luckily both videos posted, so that was for us actually seeing the cup. So they had 3, there was a truck that kind of like pushed away or cleared the crowds as much as anything else, or helped clear the crowds for the buses that were behind. There was one bus that I think probably had wives and girlfriends or something along those lines and the media on it, and then there was the second bus that had all the players on the top of the bus, an open top tour. And we were quite lucky because they held the cup and they held it over our side. The bus wasn't at the front, so the people who were on the other side wouldn't have been able to get to see it. They would have seen Jurgen Klopp, for example, because he was over there, but Mo Salah was hanging the cup off our side, or the side that we could see. They had a confetti cannon which was like booming out red ticker tape, which looked awesome. So yeah, it's just great to know that we were there to see it home, and congratulations to Liverpool for getting the win and actually having a piece of silverware. Jurgen Klopp's had, I think it was his 6th final, and the other 5 he'd end up losing, and I think there's a hope that this will now spur Liverpool on to go on and to win more stuff. Obviously the big one is the Premiership, and next season I hope they can go toe to toe again and push Man City all the way. Hopefully go unbeaten with as few draws as is possible. We watched Britain's Got Talent, the final with Max. We didn't leave till maybe 10:30, got back at 11:30. I spent quite a bit of time sending emails that are to do with Lucy Fisher, who starts with us on the Monday. Saturday was also Ninja Warrior Day, the final. We found somebody actually made it to through the final this time. That's the first time in 5 years that although loads of people get to compete in the final, whether they actually complete the final course, and then they have to do a massive rope climb. They've got 45 seconds to climb a rope, and these are the super fit guys, and he made it up there with 1 second to spare. So impressive. So we'll watch that, and that I think pretty much wraps it up. Monday will be first day for Lucy. I would say I won't be in the office for that, and Mac is also coming out on the Monday, so last day in hospital after. Seems like I've done nothing else. 2 weeks of just literally going to the hospital every day. Missed one day, which was the Saturday. We had to look after the, sort the things out for the new starter coming, which is, yeah, it's been crazy. Couldn't have done it without the help and support of everybody else, though. All the messages of, all the get well messages and what have you. I definitely know mean a lot to Wend. I appreciate it because there's people taking the time out to send the messages as well, and they come from literally all over the world. So yeah, looking forward to getting him home. So anyway, till next week, a bit more of a normal week though. This week, I hope. So we shall see. Thank you for listening. See you next week.